I was a C student in high school, and I really, I had two older brothers who were A students, future business leaders of America, on the crew team, recruited by Princeton and Harvard and all sorts of places. And I was the youngest and the only girl. My mother didn't go to college, and she thought that the dream was to live in the suburbs and have children and be able to take care of them, because she was the daughter of immigrants from Ireland, and her parents worked as night nurses and security guards to get her through. And she was like, that sounds like a terrible life. So she really wanted that dream for me. The only part of that dream I took was that I actually live in her house now, but with my two kids that go to the same school that I did. But the place that I hated more than anything as a child was the classroom. When I was a kid in high school, and I'm 52, you took typing and you took home economics. You didn't take wood shop, you didn't take engineering, you didn't take any of those things. And that wasn't that long ago, like I said. And I really, really didn't find a place that I felt that I could succeed within that school system, which is ironic because I have two daughters that go there now that are A students, and I keep telling them, I don't think you need to get A's, I think you can do other things. And I ended up in the C-suite. I've been the chief revenue officer at Microsoft from 2001 to 2008, and I took the business to $2 billion. I was the head of sales and marketing at Yahoo, running a $4 billion P&L. I took a company, Demand Media, public, was the chief revenue officer and chief marketing officer there. Now I'm the COO of a company called SoFi, which stands for Social Finance. And what we do is we help people refinance their student loans, take out personal loans, mortgages, and we just launched a wealth product, which is ironic because if you would have told me when I sat in that classroom that I hated it, that I would be running a financial services company that was built on technology and going to change the business, everybody that knows me would have said absolutely not. I had no grace, I had no skill, so what I had to do was I had to go learn things, and I had to go get a job. And you know, the people that were at that table, my mom and dad, were like, why would you want to do that? You should just go to college, you should find someone, you should get married and have some children. And I still think that they believe that. They're fantastic people, but they really believed that that was the American dream. And so I really had to change that on my own. I started scooping ice cream, and what I did was I made new flavors of ice cream. We were a handmade shop in my neighborhood, and I got to be the manager there at a young age. And I realized that money was my report card. And I know that sounds crass and people don't like to talk about money, but money became the report card that mattered to me. One of the lessons that Zem and I have discussed and how I met Zem was I said, look, I think your business should be bigger. And if you can ask someone for $10,000, you can ask them for $100,000. And she said, that's ridiculous. And I said, go try it. So she went and asked one of her customers, a corporate customer, for $100,000. And they came back and they said, we can't give you $100,000 for what you're doing for us, but we can give you 80. So she went from making $85,000. So she went from making $10,000 on something to $85,000 based on her belief and the value of it, and depending who you're selling to. I think if you can sell something for $1, you can sell it for $10. And I really love the idea of money being my report card. I've saved, I still have my communion money in an envelope somewhere. So it's not that I'm a spender. I've saved 90% of what I've made over the years. I live in my parents' house, but I liked what money told me about my worth and how I thought about my life. I ended up at Microsoft after I worked at Business Week for 13 years, running the sales and marketing team. And when I went there, I realized, wow, this is not a place that necessarily cares about money. They care about different things, and it's a product-driven company. So for all of you that are entrepreneurs out there, you either have a sales-driven company or a product-driven company. And you need to make sure that you can see and talk to people on both sides of it. I clearly like to tell a story. I like to weave fabrics and yarns that can go on forever. But in that kind of environment, I quickly realized that patterns were important, that patterns were the thing that spoke to them, numbers and data and how to tell that story. The story could come later, but the data had to come first. So I had to learn new data skills. I had to learn technology skills. I didn't know what an API was. I didn't know what the kernel was in an operating system. I didn't know many things. And this was really before the advent of search was a big deal. And so I had to go research everything and find experts and learn those skills. Just like trying to be a ballerina, it was just as difficult. And I spent hours and hours doing it. And I had to put those hours in order to succeed and to keep my seat at the table as the C student. I also had to bring the money in. So driving revenue was the validation that I got within companies. So when you have people and you hire people and you're going to put them on the product side or the money side, make sure that they know what their scorecard is and their accountability. I worked with people that looked like this, and yes, they were men. And I worked with people that looked like this, and yes, they were men. And they thought about it very differently. The money people and the product people didn't always agree. And that's one of the big lessons that you have to do, is you've got to get them to communicate as entrepreneurs. And you've got to give them the skills to be able to communicate with each other, whether it's scorecards, whether it's measurement, whether it's tracking, and you have to get them to understand it. It's like speaking a different language for folks, and it's one of the only things that will make your companies successful. And then driving the accountability on both sides of that, because I think that actually creates a beehive effect. And as I told this joke to my daughter, I need some help from the humorist. As I said, when the C students meet the A students, you actually get a beehive. All right, you guys appreciated that. Thank you. So really what happens is you get a very collaborative effect, and you get to pollinate lots of different things and ideas. But we've got to get to the point that we've created that, where different skill sets and different points of view and people that are willing to work hard and not just land as the A student somewhere. Because I've worked with lots of A students. I love them. I've worked for them. I hire them. I always make sure I've got a lot of them at my side. And we try to collaborate and bring skills together. So at SoFi, it's sort of my dream come true. And SoFi stands for social finance. It started at Stanford by probably an A student. I'm sure he's an A student. And really what it was the bet was that Stanford students would not default on their loans, because they would never do that, right? Because it would be bad self-reflection. And ultimately, we make loans to people that are refinancing their loans, that want personal loans for making their life dreams come true, and buying homes. And what it comes down to is there's three things in your life that matter to you: your career, your worthwhileness, and the relationships in your life. And we're trying to build that. I wasn't looking for a job in the financial services company. I ended up through a lot of serendipity, but ultimately I went from being a C student to the C-suite in a financial services company. So just remember, no matter where you stand, no matter how you go at it, that you can go from anywhere to anywhere, and please be nice to the C students. Thank you.